Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into the balmy, prehistoric seas where the water's warm, the reefs are towering, and the neighbors have 40 rows of teeth. You're not on a yacht. You're floating in a sunlit ocean, tens of millions of years before sunscreen and surfboards, at a time when the sea was run not by dolphins or whales, but by sharks the size of school buses. One wrong twitch and you might end up as a snack. You probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You drift slowly, weightless in the sapphire glow of an ancient ocean, sunbeams flickering down in ribbons from the shimmering surface above. Around you, the water is warm. Not bathwater warm, no. This is the kind of heat that seeps into your bones and makes you feel like part of the sea itself. You're in what will one day become the coast of South Carolina, or maybe it's northern Peru. It's hard to tell when the continents haven't quite decided where they want to sit yet. You hear a low hum, or maybe it's your own heart thudding in your chest, because something massive just moved past. A shadow-wide, torpedo-shaped, silent. You've just crossed into the Paleogene period, roughly 60 million years ago. The dinosaurs have recently bowed out, rip T-Rex, but the oceans, they've barely missed a beat. Instead, they've handed the throne to a new predator class. You spin slowly, looking down into the depths. A flick of a tail as wide as a city bus disappears into the gloom. That was Otodus obliquus, one of the early Megasharks. Not the Megalodon yet, but let's not split gills. This guy still sports a mouth that could chomp you in half before you even scream. And that's just the start. The ocean, at this point in Earth's history, is a buffet. Warm, shallow seas flood the continents, creating endless coastlines and marine highways. Tropical waters swirl across what would one day be Kansas. Europe is a fractured archipelago, and Antarctica, covered in forests. These waters are bursting with live fish, squid-like belemnites, early whales, giant turtles, and bony fish with faces only a mother or an evolutionary biologist could love. And stalking it all, rising through the ranks, are sharks. The word shark sells these creatures short. These are apex predators in their prime. Their bones made not of brittle calcium but sleek cartilage, flexible, efficient, and unsettlingly silent. They have no vocal cords, no eyelids. They've had hundreds of millions of years to perfect the art of the kill. And you? You're just the narrator's excuse to walk you into danger. The big fish swimming these waters don't just bite, they strategize, they ambush. You watch Anya shadow streaking below the surface circle, a school of ancient tuna-like fish. In a flash of movement, it rockets upward, its maw opening like a spring-loaded trap. Teeth flash each serrated, each designed to saw through flesh and bone, and the water turns momentarily murky. Dinner is served. Historians still argue whether these ancient sharks hunted in groups or simply converged wherever prey was plentiful. The fossil record, which is really just a long, incomplete jigsaw puzzle scattered across eons, teases us with hints. Parallel bite marks on bones, scattered feeding grounds, the occasional prehistoric hickey left on a whale skull. But even without certainty, it's clear something big is brewing in the evolutionary soup. These early megasharks are larger than anything the modern ocean hosts, far exceeding even the great white. Some may have measured up to 30 feet, and they're still getting bigger. Quirky aside, some fringe researchers once proposed, quite seriously, that early humans might have coexisted with these creatures long enough to carve shark teeth into religious totems. It's a bit of a stretch, considering the 50 million year age gap, But hey, people believe in Nessie. As you float, you spot something glimmering below, a scattering of fossilized teeth embedded in the seafloor. They fall constantly as sharks replace their teeth like impatient toddlers discard toys. Some of these teeth will one day decorate a museum. Others will sit in a child's rock collection next to a dinosaur claw that's actually a piece of broken plumbing. Your surroundings are deceptively serene. The sea's surface dances above you like liquid crystal. There's a sense of isolation here, like time doesn't matter. Then you spot it. A dorsal fin. It's big, way too big. You can't tell how far it is. It might be a juvenile close-up, or an adult the length of a subway car drifting lazily in the distance. You float, heart hammering. And then it's gone. That's the thing about these giants. They don't need speed to kill, just presence. Their bodies displace more water than a fishing trawler. When they swim, the ocean makes room. And yet, they're not invincible. You'll soon see that size is both power and vulnerability. For now, you're suspended in time, watching an empire begin. A kingdom without kings, just countless queens of the deep. Sharks with teeth so sharp they leave slices in fossils. Sharks with eyes like jet black glass marbles. Sharks that don't care you're watching. You're a barnacle in their timeline. The sun begins to set in this ancient ocean, the sky above bleeding pink and orange into the sea. And you, floating quietly, know that you've only scratched the surface. You drift into the shallows, where the water thins to a crystalline glow and the sun warms your back like a sun lamp with no off switch. But don't get too cozy, this isn't your vacation. This is the continental shelf, the very edge of ancient landmasses, drowned under a shallow sea, and it's where the real action happens. It may feel like the kiddie pool of the prehistoric ocean, but it's crawling with apex predators big enough to make a cruise ship reconsider its life choices. Below you stretches a patchwork of sandbars, coral outcrops, and seagrass meadows, and over it glides the unmistakable silhouette of a megashark. This one's a classic Carcharocles angustidens, a warm-up act in the evolutionary lineup leading to the infamous Megalodon. With a jaw wide enough to park a smart car and teeth that curve like sabers, it cruises the shelf like it owns the lease, and, to be fair, it kinda does. You follow cautiously, which is generous considering you're invisible to everything here. Lucky you. The shark pivots its snout downward, zeroing in on a sea cow roughly the size of a minivan. 1 beat. 2. Then with a flick of its crescent tail boom, it vanishes in a shockwave of bubbles. The strike is so fast, the water churns before the brain registers the kill. You don't see the sea cow again. You do see a trail of red. Here in the shallows, food is everywhere. The sun supercharges marine ecosystems, creating nurseries of prey and buffet lines for predators. Fish schools sparkle like underwater confetti. Giant rays glide like forgotten kites. Crocodilian cousins called Dirosaurus lurk in mangrove roots, their smiles full of bad decisions. And then there's Squalocorax, the crow shark smaller than the megas, but faster, scrappier, and not above a little mid-meal theft. It darts in after kills like a wingman at an open bar, snagging chunks of whatever someone else worked hard to catch. Historians still argue whether sharks in this period had any real competition. Sure, there were marine reptiles, mosasaurs, pliosaurs, but those guys were more Cretaceous rock stars, now mostly extinct. The new challengers are early whales and giant flightless birds that have just started poking their beaks into the waterline. They're not threats yet, more like curious interns in a dangerous office. You float near a reef shelf now, the corals sharp and chaotic, a gaudy explosion of color and structure that makes today's reefs look like minimalist art. A school of armored fish zips past. You barely notice the shadow until it passes inches above you. Another megashark, this one even bigger than the last. You realize that in the warm seas of the Eocene and Oligocene epochs, size isn't a Bonucid standard. Here's your quirky, fringe tidbit for the night. One fossil tooth found in what's now Morocco shows a distinct groove, almost like it was used repeatedly for gnawing bones. A few researchers, clearly in need of a good nap, have theorized that some sharks didn't just hunt, they gnawed, like sea dogs with chew toys. Whether this was actual behavior or just the result of weird fossilization remains, well, debated. But it paints a deliciously chaotic picture, doesn't it? You glide along the sandy bottom, where the water starts to pick up a subtle vibration, not sound exactly more like pressure, pulse. And then, as if summoned, a pod of early whales appears. These aren't the graceful filter feeders of today. These are toothy, semi-amphibious beasts like Basilosaurus, long, eel-like creatures with the unsettling energy of something not quite finished evolving. The megasharks trail them like ghosts. You watch the standoff, unfold whales trying to keep their calves near the center, sharks circling just out of range. No attack yet, it's a chess game. And it happens in mere meters of water, where one good lunge could beach the wrong player. This is why the shallows are terrifying. Deep water has mystery. The shallows have consequence. You push farther along the shelf edge until the color of the water changes. Pale turquoise gives way to cobalt blue, and the floor drops off like a cliff. The continental shelf ends here, and with it, the illusion of safety. Before you descend, you glance back one last time, just in time to see a shark the length of a school bus breach the surface in pursuit of a ray. The entire animal lifts from the water, graceful, impossible, slow-motion elegance, and then crashes back down with enough force to send ripples out for miles. Historians still argue whether sharks could really breach in those days. Fossil bones don't capture acrobatics, but some modern great whites do it. And if they can at half the size, maybe their ancestors could tow with even more jaw-dropping results. As the sun dips lower and the sky takes on that rich, orange warmth that only ever seems to happen over water, you drift along the outer rim of the shallows. Around you, predators continue their silent ballet. There's no malice in their movements, no horror music playing, just instinct, evolution, and the indifferent churn of time. It's hard not to feel small here, not just in size, but in the face of such relentless design. These sharks aren't evil. They're not villains. They're just perfect at what they do. They swim. They eat. They thrive. For millions of years, they will dominate these shallows. And then, just as quietly, they'll be gone. But you're not there yet. You drift into calmer waters, now lagoon-like shallows protected by reef barriers, where the waves break far from shore and the sea feels almost tranquil. Almost because you're entering a nursery, and while that word might conjure up images of pastel walls and sleepy lullabies, this place is anything but gentle. Here, the newborns are 6 feet long, their teeth already replacing themselves in assembly line fashion, and their first instinct is to test those jaws on literally anything. Welcome to the Megashark birthing grounds. The water is still and warm, the kind of heat that thickens the air above it and makes the surface shimmer like it's holding in a secret. The bottom is littered with fine sand, the kind that puffs up in clouds with every fin stroke. You hover quietly, watching as a female shark, slow and purposeful, glides through a narrow pass in the reef. She's huge and noticeably round, an underwater dirigible full of the next generation of nightmares. You already know how shark pregnancies work, right? Of course not, because they're weird. Some megasharks laid eggs, others gave live birth, and some engaged in intrauterine cannibalismias. The strongest embryos literally ate their siblings while still inside the womb. You think human family drama is bad? Imagine starting life with a brawl in a uterine pit fight. She settles into a sandy cradle of the lagoon and then drifts motionless, her gills fanning gently, and then out they come. One by one, pups emerge, squirming like sleek little missiles, already blinking with cold, black eyes, and because nature has a sense of humor, already hunting. You back off, just in time. One of the pups tries to bite a piece of coral. It doesn't care that coral isn't edibly, it's testing, calibrating, becoming. You'd say it's cute if the teeth weren't so visible. These nurseries were vital to the survival of megashark species. Paleontologists believe areas like this quiet lagoons, estuaries, even flooded mangrove swamps served as protected zones for young sharks to grow before venturing out to open sea. The fossil record in places like Panama and Egypt shows clusters of small shark teeth, all from the same time period, all in the same soft sediment layers. It's the equivalent of a prehistoric daycare, if your daycare was full of baby chainsaws. Historians still argue whether adult megasharks return to the same birthing sites year after year, like modern great whites and tiger sharks often do. There's some evidence to suggest this migratory pattern chemical signatures in teeth that match regional water chemistry, but it's not conclusive. One camp says instinctual homing behavior, the other says sharks are just vibing. Pick your side. You settle beside a fallen log, maybe from some mangrove tree long swallowed by the sea. A few pups pass near you, their scales glittering in the light. They're already in competition with each other, trying out tiny ambushes, mock attacks, even eating each other's discarded scraps. It's less sibling bonding and more underwater Hunger Games. Meanwhile, other species cruise the edges of the lagoon, drawn by the smell of fresh meat and possibly the sounds of chaos. Giant sawfish, elongated like underwater bayonets, sweep the bottom for scraps. A juvenile basilosaurus, long and serpentine, slinks in to see what all the fuss is about and quickly decides he's not paid enough for this nonsense. You spot a fringe dweller near the Roxanne ancient ray species that blends into the sand like a living welcome mat. A pup nudges too close and zap, a sudden jolt. Turns out prehistoric rays had electric defenses too, and this one is packing prehistoric voltage. The pup flips, stunned, then flails away, wiser now, maybe. And then comes the noise. Not a sound exactly, more like an underwater thump, as a full-grown male enters the lagoon. He's not here to babysit, he's here to feed. The atmosphere shifts, even underwater. The other species back off, the pups scatter. This guy isn't the biggest, but he's battle-scar done eye cloudy, part of his dorsal fin missing. A living fossil, already seasoned by a dozen mating seasons and 100 hunts. He cruises in slow arc, sniffing the current, reading it like a gossip magazine. You hold your breath not because you need to, but because something about his presence demands it. Even from your ghostly vantage point, he seems aware. The nursery has become a kill zone. And then the chaos begins. He darts forward, jaws wide, scooping up an unwary pup before it can blink. The others scatter like thrown dice, spiraling into the reef's cracks and shadows. You'd think this is unnatural, but it's not. This is the cost of evolution. Only the fastest, smartest, luckiest will make it to adulthood. The rest, fuel for the system. Quirky tidbit time. One ancient site contains what might be a tooth embedded in the vertebra of another shark of the same species. Was it cannibalism? A territorial fight? A lover's quarrel gone wrong? No one knows. But it's one more reason not to schedule a playdate with Megashark pups. You hover just above the reef's edge now, watching as the older male drifts away, belly full and unbothered. The pups re-emerge slowly, a few bolder ones already resuming their little contests. One bites the tail of another, misses, and ends up gnawing coral again. Poor guy's got ambition, if not aim. Historians still argue how much of modern shark behavior mirrors that of their prehistoric ancestors. Today's great whites return to birthing grounds, and their pups also face high mortality rates. But whether the same behaviors played out here, in these ancient nurseries, remains open to interpretation. As the day ends and the light dims, the lagoon turns lavender and gold. You float above it all, this brutal ballet of life and death playing out beneath you like a slow-motion documentary only you get to see. And somewhere, maybe in the sand below or the fading light above, another shark pup hatches with teeth already sharp and instincts already loaded. Because in this world, you're born huntinga, you're born lunch. As you float deeper into the waters of this ancient world, the warmth of the shallows starts to dissipate, the sun's retreat pulling a veil of coolness over the ocean. The landscape begins to shift, too. The coral reefs, once so vibrant, give way to vast, silent plains of sand stretching as far as you can see. The water here is darker, so dark, it's almost a suffocating shade of indigo. The depths. The realm where the Megasharks have truly come into their own. You drift, weightless, through the cold expanse. A patch of bioluminescent plankton stirs around you, casting a faint glow that lights up your surroundings like tiny stars scattered in the dark. It's strangely peaceful except for the distinct feeling that this peace is temporary. You're deep enough now to sense the water pressure shifting, to feel the subtle vibrations of distant creatures navigating the vastness. And that's when you hear it. Not a sound exactly shift in the water, a tremor in the current, a pulse just beneath your feet. Something big is moving, something massive. It's the deep ocean's warning sign. A predator is on the prowl. You don't have to look far to see it there. Cutting through the darkness like a shadow made flesh is a Carcharocles Megalodon, the Meg, the king of the ancient seas. She is magnificent and terrifying all at once, her immense size dwarfing anything else in the vicinity. This is the moment you've been waiting for, the reason you're here to see the beast in its prime. You've heard the myths this shark, the one that could grow up to 60 feet long. A creature whose jaw was capable of taking a bite so immense it could devour a whale in a single strike. And here she is, swimming leisurely in the cold, dark depths, unconcerned with your presence. She's not hunting right now. No, she's just existing. A gentle giant of destruction, comfortable in her ocean kingdom. Her body moves in a slow, steady rhythm, cutting through the water with the grace of a true predator. There's no frantic thrashing, no exaggerated movements, just the measured elegance of a creature that has mastered its domain over millions of years. Historians still argue the extent of the Meg's hunting habits. Some believe she hunted by stalking her prey in the open ocean, ambushing from below. Others suggest that she spent more time in coastal waters, feeding on whatever she could find. The truth is, no one really knows for sure. But the sheer scale of the Meg's hunting potential is mind-boggling. Her teeth, serrated and triangular, are capable of severing large chunks of flesh, and her jaw could exert a pressure beyond anything modern sharks can dream of. As you drift alongside her, the size of this creature becomes all too real. The Meg is a living testament to nature's ability to create an organism so specialized, so well adapted to its environment, that it doesn't even need to hunt often. A few strikes a month would be enough to sustain her massive form. It's terrifying to think of how little effort it takes for something like this to survive. But it's not all power. The Meg is not indestructible. You watch her glide past an undersea canyon, her body casting a shadow so vast it seems to swallow the ocean floor beneath her. The canyon walls are littered with fossilized remnants of smaller, sharks-likely victims of some ancient conflict that has long since passed. They've become little more than a memory, a part of the ocean's ancient cycle. Speaking of the ocean's ancient cycles, it's impossible to ignore the fact that the Meg's reign is not eternal. The waters are changing. The ecosystem is evolving. The sharks, though dominant now, will eventually find themselves in a race for survival. Other creatures more agile, more opportunistic will begin to challenge their dominance. The rise of whales will shift the balance of power, and the megasharks, too slow and unwieldy for the new ecosystem, will eventually fade into extinction. Quirky aside, there's an interesting theory out there that suggests the Meg's eventual extinction was linked to the climate changes of the time, particularly the cooling of the oceans and the shift toward more open water hunting. Some researchers even propose that the Meg, in her size, was too specialized to adapt quickly enough to the new conditions, and that's why she vanished. As you float just behind the Meg, watching her giant body maneuver effortlessly through the deep, you realize how lucky you are. This is a rare glimpse into a world that existed millions of years ago, a time when creatures ruled the oceans that make today's great whites look like minnows in comparison. The Meg continues her slow cruise through the depths, her powerful tail sending ripples through the water. She stops at a hunting ground, a place where the water's current shifts and brings in a bounty of fish, squid, and the occasional unfortunate whale. The Meg opens her mouth, revealing rows upon rows of teeth, designed to latch onto anything unfortunate enough to wander into her path. You're reminded of an ancient mytha tale passed down through generations of a sea monster so great, so vast, that it could swallow entire ships. It sounds absurd, of course, but as you watch the Meg's massive jaws slowly close around a passing school of fish, you can't help but wonder, could a creature like this have inspired such legends? A predator so huge, so magnificent, that it could have easily been mistaken for a god or a monster. For a brief moment, you catch a glimpse of her eyes dark and cold, reflecting the dim light that filters down from above. She doesn't see you. She doesn't need to. She's a force of nature, moving through the depths with a purpose you'll never truly understand. You can only watch, mesmerized as she moves further into the dark, her tail fins slicing through the water like a blade. Historians still argue about whether the Meg was a cold-blooded killer, or if she had moments of gentle grace if, like whales, she sometimes exhibited social behavior, even communication. Some believe that the Meg's size and solitary nature prevented her from engaging in any form of interaction with other creatures. Others think she might have been capable of complex social bonds, though the evidence is scarce. But for now, you watch as she disappears into the black abyss below, leaving only ripples in her wake. You rise now slowly, carefully leaving behind the twilight zone of the deep ocean. The water lightens around you, changing hue from velvet blue to a kind of sun-tinted turquoise. Here, the sea sparkles again, alive with activity. Schools of bony fish shimmer like liquid mercury. Jellyfish, large and eerily translucent, pulse their way through the current. And in the distance, something vast and whale-shaped breaches, sending birds scattering. You're entering a new arena now, the Megashark hunting grounds. This isn't just random open water. You're gliding over a continental shelf, one of those gentle slopes that borders ancient coastlines, dropping suddenly into the abyss. It's the edge of two worlds, coastal warmth above, deep ocean cold below, and it's absolutely teeming with food. Here's where it gets interesting. Megasharks, for all their terrifying size, didn't just rely on brute strength to catch their prey. Oh no. You're about to witness something a bit more strategic, a precision hunt. And guess what's on the menu? Whales. Now, we're not talking blue whales yet. Those come much later. We're talking about early cetacean sleek, agile proto-whales like Livyatan melvillei, Basilosaurus, and other mammals that were just starting to throw their evolutionary weight around. They were smart, fast, and armed with serious teeth of their own. But the megashark didn't care. She was faster, hungrier, sharper. You hover high above a chase already in progress. The water beneath you churns violently, two shapes slicing through it like underwater torpedoes. The prey is long-bodied, about 30 feet. A Zigorhisa, maybe? You squint. It's darting between rock outcroppings along the shelf, trying to evade the unmistakable shadow behind it. And that shadow? Megashark. A big one. Here's the thing about Megashark's strategy. They didn't always go for a head-on attack. That was risky. Instead, they'd often target the flanks, the fins, or most devastatingly the tail. One good bite to the tail, and boom, the prey slows, loses maneuverability, spirals downward. You watch now as the shark feints to the left, then curves upward in a brutal arc and Bombshi takes a chunk right out of the tail fin. The proto-whale jerks, blood clouding the water, and within seconds it's over. A second pass, a third. The prey drifts motionless, spinning, a crimson ribbon spiraling from its side. You want to look away, but there's a morbid grace to it like ballet. If ballet involved 40,000-pound murder missiles. Historians still argue whether megasharks hunted solo or cooperatively. The popular image is always one beast, one kill. But there's evidence bite patterns on bones, fossilized feeding sites that suggests there may have been group hunting behavior, not teamwork, exactly more like opportunistic feeding frenzies. A sort of prehistoric first come, first chomp arrangement. And those hunting grounds? Scientists have found fossil deposits with dense concentrations of whale bones bearing distinctive megashark bite marks. Peru's Pisco Formation, for example, is basically a megashark buffet preserved in stone. Whales, seals, giant turtle sole with serrated half-moon scars across their skeletons. Makes you wonder how long these waters ran red. Here's your quirky tidbit of the night. There's a theory that megasharks use the Earth's magnetic fields to navigate. Yep, like living GPS devices. Some believe the iron-rich structures in their skulls help them orient across vast distances, returning to rich hunting grounds with unnerving precision. Just imagine a 60-foot compass needle with teeth. You glide lower now, close to the shelf's edge, and the current tugs at you. Below, the seabed falls away into nothingness, a sudden cliff plunging into the unknown. These drop-offs were critical ambush, points-perfect places to catch unsuspecting prey, traveling between shallow feeding areas and deeper migration routes. A smaller shark darts past you, probably a relative of Otodus obliquus, sleek and curious. He zips toward the leftover scraps from the earlier kill, snatching a chunk before a larger predator chases him off. Even in death, that one whale is feeding half the reef. And then you spot something unusual. A piece of whale vertebra lodged in a coral outcrop, bearing twin arcs of serrated gouges. You float closer. The gouges are staggered, layered, suggesting not one bite, but several, delivered with surgical precision. This was no chaotic frenzy. It was practiced, refined. There's something oddly poetic about the megashark's hunting methods. She doesn't rush, she doesn't roar, she simply exists at the top of the food chain, unbothered and unchallenged. Her power isn't in speed alone, it's in patience. You wonder how long she followed that whale before striking. Hours, days. A school of fish scatters as she circles back, mouth agape, scooping up the last floating bits of meat. You spot rows of her teethsome still embedded, some visibly loose, wobbling as if eager to fall out. Here's a fun shark fact to keep you up tonight. Megasharks could lose thousands of teeth in their lifetime. Their jaws were conveyor belts, constantly growing new rows, ejecting the old like last season's fashion. And those teeth? They're everywhere. Literally. Ancient beaches across the globe are littered with them. Some are hand-sized. Kids dig them up in Florida like seashells. Others are fossilized deep within cliff faces in South Carolina or Peru. A single tooth is sometimes all we have to identify an entire species. Historians still argue over how fast megasharks could swim. Some estimates suggest short bursts of up to 25 miles per hour faster than Olympic swimmers, and certainly faster than anything trying to escape them in the Miocene seas. Others say their size made them more reliant on surprise and ambush rather than speed. Above you now, seabirds circle. That means a fresh kill has breached the surface. You rise slowly, breaking through the glimmering ceiling of water, and there it is, a smear of red, slick and viscous, riding the swells like paint on canvas. The megashark is gone, her meal complete. But the ripples she left behind stretch for miles. You watch as smaller scavengers converge reptiles, fish, even a curious early penguin species fluttering awkwardly at the edge of the chaos. Everyone gets a taste. It's a gruesome potluck, and no one brought dessert. The sun is setting now, the sky burning orange and pink over the horizon. You float there, just beneath the surface, watching the glow dim and the sea quieten again. And beneath the calm, you know she's still out there, somewhere. Waiting, darkness settles like ink poured into water. The shallow brilliance fades behind you as you glide into cooler depths once again. The surface, world sunlight, birds, even the violent theater of megashark hunts feels like a dream slipping away behind a velvet curtain. You're in the depths now, the underworld of ancient seas, quiet, mysterious, occasionally horrifying. This is where the leftovers go. Dead whales, half-eaten turtles, things that sank. Down here, the rules are different. Energy is rare, food is scarcer, and what thrives isn't always what you'd expect. But make no mistake, the megasharks come here too. You pass a rocky outcrop, its ridges coated in microbial slime thriving off sulfur vents and ancient rot. A ray slithers past like a ghost. In the distance, the faint glimmer of bioluminescence flickers. A strange jellyfish, maybe, or a lure from something hoping you'll swim closer and regret it. This is where we uncover one of the more surprising truths about megasharks. They weren't limited to warm, shallow playgrounds. Fossilized teeth have been found in deeper sediments, and that sparked debate. Did they descend here to scavenge, to give birth, or just to cruise the cooler waters where certain prey-like deep-diving whales might pass through? Historians still argue whether megasharks were deep divers or just occasional tourists in the depths. Some think their bodies weren't built for pressure. Others argue their massive size made them uniquely suited to handle it. After all, what's a little water pressure when you outweigh a bus? A shadow shifts beside you, and you freeze. It's not your girl, the megashark you've come to know and vaguely root for. This one is bulkier, slower, older. Maybe a male, judging by the size and the scarring around his snout. He's not hunting, he's just wandering. You drift closer, careful not to imagine what would happen if he weren't a ghost from the past. His mouth opens slightly, revealing rows of serrated teeth, some broken, some regrowing. That mouth has seen things, bitten things, and right now, it's yawning, like it's just a slow day at the office. Quirky tidbit time. Some paleontologists believe sharks use magnetic cues, not just to navigate, but to orient themselves during rest status, sort of like sleeping while parked in the right direction. So, this guy? He might be napping with intention. You hang back as he drifts downward, lazily spiraling into the darker trenches. He's heading toward what you quickly realize is a whale falla, massive corpse of a deep-diving cetacean. It lies like a collapsed blimp on the sea floor, ribs exposed, flesh already stripped in patches, and surrounding it, a crowd. Scavengers of every size and flavor have gathered for this morbid picnic. Long-bodied fish with translucent skin, eyeless eels, ancient crabs with spiny armor that looks like rejected alien concept art, and smaller sharks. Maybe even some juvenile Megasharks working up the nerve to take their place in this brutal food web. The big male hovers above the corpse, then nudges a gap in the ribcage and takes a deliberate, almost respectful bite. It's not a frenzy, it's not even that hungry, just protocol. When in the deep, do as the scavengers do. Historians still argue whether deep feeding was common behavior or just a desperation move. Did megasharks actively patrol the depths for whale falls? Or was this a rare opportunity a lucky bonus meal stumbled upon while cruising deeper waters? Above the fall, something shimmers. A school of lanternfish, a little light, show of blues and greens, blinking in waves like a pixelated aurora. And for a second, you forget where you are. Forget the predator drifting nearby. Forget the corpse buffet. It's just beautiful. Then something crashes into the lanternfish, scattering them like sand in wind. Another megashark, smaller but faster, comes spiraling out of the gloom. It doesn't linger. Just grabs a chunk of whale, blubber, and bolts. A hit and run. No greetings, no etiquette. The deep sea doesn't believe in manners. And now, a strange scent hits you, not real, but imagined. Ancient memory pressing itself into your awareness. Rot, salt, oil. The smell of death so old it's part of the sediment. You drift upward, instinctively, rising away from the decay. Even in ghost form, you crave the surface light. But before you go, you pass something rare. A shark's tooth freshly shed, spinning slowly in the current like a feather. It's jagged, 4 inches long, curved like a scythe, and then another, and another. A rain of teeth. This is a feeding site, a megashark hotspot. Mainstream fact alert. Scientists have documented tooth beds, layers of sediment densely packed with fossilized shark teeth, sometimes thousands per square meter. These aren't just scattered fossils. These are mass-shedding zones, places where dozens, maybe hundreds of sharks congregated to feed, breed, or just hang out like the world's most intense family reunion. You pass over one now, the seabed glittering with teeth like a cursed treasure hoard. Some are embedded in whalebone. Some rest in neat little clusters. Others have begun to calcify into stone. You want to scoop one up, take it home like a souvenir. But you can't. These aren't relics for the living. They belong to the sea. And the sea, for all its mystery, remembers everything. As you rise again, the pressure eases. The light returns, slowly, hesitantly. The whale fall disappears beneath you. The scavengers drift away, and the big male, gone. Just a shadow that came, fed, and vanished. You're back at the midwater now. That strange in-between zone where light still dances, but everything feels uncertain, like the pause in a horror movie score, just before the next jump scare. But for now, it's quiet, peaceful even. The ocean holds its breath, and so do you. You surface now into warmer waters, your body, if it existed, tingling from the pressure change. Above, a pale sun filters through clouds of ancient plankton, casting everything in a dreamy gold. The sea here is busy again. Not violent, not chaotic, just humming with life. And yet, there's tension beneath the rhythm. Something more than food chains and survival instincts. Something personal. You're entering the world of rivals. You thought the Megashark had it easy, didn't you? Top predator, jaws like industrial machinery, no natural enemies. But evolution isn't sentimental, and the Miocene seas were far from peaceful. You're about to witness a time of power plays, territory disputes, and apex on apex confrontations. Think Game of Thrones, but with more fins and fewer poorly written final seasons. That ridge in the distance? It's not just a reef, it's a breeding ground. Megasharks return to these areas again and again, drawn by something older than memory, maybe magnetic fields, maybe scent trails, maybe just ancient instinct. And where there's reproduction, there's competition. You drift toward the shallows, where a gathering is already underway. 3 massive shapes glide around one another, slow, deliberate, like bouncers sizing each other up outside a particularly exclusive club. They're all Megasharks. 2 males, 1 female, judging by size and fin pattern. And while they're not biting yet, oh, the tension could slice kelp. Here's your quirky tidbit. Some researchers believe that, like modern great whites, megasharks may have engaged in fin nipping or body bumping as part of courtship. Romantic, huh? Nothing says, "You're cute," like a 5-ton nudge to the ribcage. You watch one male spiral close, nudging the female's flank. She doesn't react. He tries again, closer this time, and bam. The other male rockets forward, jaws slightly open, and bumps him hard enough to make the water churn. A warning, a challenge. Historians still argue whether megasharks were territorial or nomadic. Did they guard favorite breeding zones like angry sea landlords? Or did they wander, constantly looking for new real estate? The fossil record offers hints, but no clear answers. Bite marks on pectoral fins suggest frequent aggression, maybe even ritualized combat. But were those fights for mates, or food, or both? You pull back, not eager to get caught in the middle of a prehistoric lovers' quarrel. Instead, you drift toward the edge of the reef, where something even more fascinating is happening. Interspecies drama. Down there, see that sleek, snub-nosed silhouette? That's not a megashark. That's a Leedsichthys-sized rival, Livyatan melvillei, the sperm whale of nightmares. Yes, that Livyatan. Giant toothed whale, built like a torpedo, capable of chomping through thick bone with enough force to rattle a planet. And he is not in the mood to share this reef. The megashark circles above, keeping her distance. She's big, nearly 50 feet, but Livyatan's just as long, and possibly smarter. Their paths cross in an elegant, tension-filled ballet. One slight mistake, and it's a bloodbath. Mainstream fact incoming. Livyatan melvillei lived in roughly the same time and waters as Otodus megalodon. Fossils from Peru suggest both giants coexisted and quite possibly competed. For prey, for space, for dominance. Can you even imagine? 2 apex predators, each the size of a bus, locking eyes in the open sea. It's enough to make your ghostly spine shiver. The whale flicks its massive tail, diving deeper, uninterested in a fight. But the shark doesn't follow. Not this time. She's not here to pick battles. She's here to breed. And maybe eat something smaller. She drifts away, silent as a shadow, passing above a school of dolphin-like mammal-seerly relatives of orcas. They chatter, unaware as she glides overhead. You'd warn them if you could. But nature has her own scripts to follow. Still, Not every encounter ends in violence. You notice two smaller Megasharks juveniles twisting together in what looks suspiciously like play. They chase each other around coral columns, surfacing briefly before diving again. One snaps at a fish just to show off. The other imitates, misses, and spins in a sulky circle. Is it actual play? Or instinct rehearsal? Hard to say. Historians still argue whether sharks display true social behavior or just act out survival scripts. But those watching the behavior of today's great whites might lean toward the former. They sometimes form loose social groups. Some even follow leaders. It's not much of a stretch to imagine their mega ancestors doing the same, just with way more tooth. You turn now, following the older female again. She's swimming slower, methodical, searching, maybe for a safe nesting spot, maybe just for a moment of peace. You trail her for a while, drifting just above, watching how the water parts for her massive frame like silk. And then suddenly, she stops. Ahead, in a narrow channel between reefs, another shark waits. Slightly smaller, male. Fin-scarred, one eye clouded over with age or damage. You get the sense he's been waiting a long time. They circle once, twice, no bumps, no bites. And then they swim forward together, side by side. You feel something in your nut chest, something like awe, or nostalgia, or maybe just a ghost version of heartburn. Whatever it is, you don't dare break the moment. Eventually, they vanish into the deeper blue. Not quickly, not urgently, just together. And for once, this brutal, beautiful Miocene ocean feels a little bit tender. You drift alone now, the reef bustling behind you. The water's full of clicks, splashes, a distant tail slap, but you float just above it all, suspended in thought. Apex predators aren't always alone. Sometimes, even the biggest monsters need company. The water thickens with salt and history as you slide into the estuary zonia place, where freshwater rivers kiss the prehistoric sea, muddying the currents and thickening the stories. You're still with the Megasharks, but now you're seeing them at their edge, their limit, the borderlands of their reign. It's murky here, silty. Plants grow thick and tangled along the seafloor, waving like ghost hands. Juvenile turtles bump lazily through the reeds. Everything feels slower, lazier, but also closer. The open ocean's vastness has been traded for a kind of dreamy claustrophobia. The stakes here aren't lower, they're just different. Your girl, the Megashark you've followed, feared, and maybe grown a little attached, to glides cautiously into the estuary. She's big, too big for this kind of environment. Her tail flicks harder now, adjusting to the shallows. Her bulk stirs up sediment with every move, turning visibility into mush. You're here because this is where something rare happened. Fossils tell of megashark teeth found near ancient estuary deposits places. We wouldn't expect them. That sparked debate, of course. Historians still argue whether these were intentional excursions or flukes. Were the sharks following prey upriver, giving birth in calmer waters, or were they simply lost? Whatever the case, she's not alone. You catch glimpses of other creatures more suited to this muddy halfway zone. Crocodilians, the ancient kind, float just beneath the surface, eyes breaking water like periscopes. They're massive, armored, and deeply unimpressed by your shark's arrival. And then there are the Cyrenian surly manatees spattling through the greenery like bored gondoliers, peaceful, gentle, nearly blind, and completely oblivious to the giant predator nearby. Megashark doesn't go after them, too bony. Not worth the effort. She circles, inspecting this strange new biome. There's something uneasy about her movement. She's used to deep water, open lanes, clear kills. Here, she's slowed down, second-guessing. Apex predator or not, she's out of her element. You drift through a thicket of ancient seagrass, brushing past barnacle-covered driftwood that's been floating since before birds sang. A few turtles bask on a sandy bank, primitive-looking, with armored backs and suspicious eyes. One of them slides into the water when it spots the Megashark's silhouette. The others stay frozen, playing prehistoric possum. And then, a ripple of alarm. The estuary goes eerily still. Even the crocodiles duck under. Something's coming. From upriver, a thunderous shape barrels into view. It's not a shark. It's a relative of the ancient sawfish enormous, with a long, blade-like snout edged in teeth. Think chainsaw plus nightmare. It swings its head side to side, carving the water, searching. Quirky tidbit alert. Fossilized rostrums from these sawfish cousins have been found with wear patterns that suggest not just passive defense, but active combat slashing, impaling, possibly even dueling. These weren't your chill, modern rays. They were ancient bouncers with face weapons. Megashark pauses, watches. The sawfish charges a group of smaller fish, sending them scattering. It's hungry, irritable, not smart enough or maybe too smart to pick a fight with something her size. Still, the Megashark turns away, back toward the salt. The estuary held her attention for a time, but it's not home, not really. She leaves no blood behind, no broken ribs, no drama. Just churned sediment and a low-pressure wake. But her visit leaves a mark in the estuary's ecology, on your imagination. Because here, at this brackish edge of worlds, you realize something important. Even the rulers of the sea had boundaries. And sometimes they crossed them not for glory or conquest, but because something in their ancient, barnacle-encrusted instincts said, try anyway. You follow her, ghost-tailing as she returns to the clearer waters of the coastal shelf, and the estuary closes behind you like a muddy curtain. You won't forget it, though. The way the reeds danced, the way the crocodiles didn't blink, the sawfish with the attitude problem. Back in clearer water, the Megashark shakes herself metaphorically, like someone stepping out of a weird dream and back into familiar streets. She picks up speed, tail slicing efficiently now, body relaxed again. You pass over fossil beds laid down millions of years ago, now exposed by shifting sediment. A jawbone here, a vertebra there, all mixed in with the occasional serrated tooth. History, discarded and waiting. Mainstream fact drop. Megashark teeth have been found on every continent except Antarctica. That includes coastal regions far from where we expected, sometimes even deep inland, embedded in sedimentary rock that was once an ancient seaway. This wide range adds weight to the theory that they could tolerate multiple salinities, at least for a little while. You pause over a sandbar, feeling the warm currents swirl up from the shallows. The reef here is quieter. No rival predators, no breeding drama, just the sea, humming its eternal lullaby. The Megashark dives once, slowly, as if rinsing off the memory of that murky visit. Then she rises again, heading toward a pod of juvenile whales in the distance. Not hunting, just cruising. Observing, maybe deciding. You remain behind for a moment, watching her fade into the golden blue. And something occurs to you. She didn't belong there, but she went anyway. Saw what was different. Decided, calmly, that it wasn't worth it. Some apex monsters have emotional intelligence too, apparently. The water opens wider again, the horizon stretching in all directions like a sunlit infinity pool designed by ancient tectonic architects. You've followed the Megashark out of the estuary, through the sediment-clouded middle, and now into one of the most surprisingly serene chapters of its monstrous life, migration. Yeah, that's right. The apex predator, this colossal, many-ton legend of the sea, isn't just out here chomping whales 24/7. Sometimes, it's just swimming. For days, weeks, months. And not just swimming, but following invisible cues across entire ocean basins, like a prehistoric GPS with no battery icon and no off switch. You hang just behind her, in her massive, slow-moving slipstream. Each tail beat covers meters. She glides forward with the grace of a freight train on silk rails, leaving only faint turbulence in her wake. Around her, schools of pilot fish keep pace, opportunistic and unbothered. Above, seabirds trace lazy loops, catching fish disturbed by her motion. Below, deep-water shadows twist and retreat. Modern sharks, like great whites and whale sharks, are known to migrate thousands of miles. Mainstream historical fact. Satellite tags on today's great whites show round-trip journeys across entire oceans, driven by mating, feeding, or even temperature shifts. So naturally, researchers suspect the Megalodon did the same on a scale that's hard to wrap your sleepy little brain around. Historians still argue whether these routes were fixed or seasonal. Were there Megalodon highways? Did they have favored stopping points, like ancient sea truckers hitting the same rest stops year after year? Or were they more reactive, changing course based on prey movements and ocean currents? You drift higher, and suddenly the seafloor drops away, gone, just gone. The continental shelf ends here, giving way to the pelagic realm, the true, open ocean. This isn't territory the Megashark dominates easily. There's no place to corner prey, no reefs to trap them against, just the endless, rolling blue. And still, she swims. Quirky tidbit coming your way. A few studies have speculated that megalodons might have followed warm water currents like the prehistoric equivalent of cruise ships, avoiding cooler upwellings like picky retirees. Their giant size made regulating body heat easier but not limitless. Once the climate began shifting toward cooler oceans, their days were literally numbered. But here, in this stretch of ancient water, things are still toasty and welcoming. You pass ghost reefs and lost islands that would one day be mountain ranges. Beneath you, faint tremors ripple the sand as distant tectonic activity stirs the Earth's crust. You know, just nature, quietly rehearsing for the Ring of Fire. She's not alone on this journey. In the distance, you spot other, shapesless, massive, but just as determined. A pod of early baleen whales moves parallel to her path. Not food, not yet, maybe not ever. She drifts alongside them like a shadow cousin, neither hunting nor fleeing, just coexisting. A strange, quiet detente in the deep. But not everyone's friendly. Something below, fast, twitchy, sleek. You pivot downward and suddenly a pack of ancient mackerel sharks races into view, smaller but fierce, operating like raptors. They're not here for the megashark, of course. That'd be suicidal. They're chasing prey the size of compact, carcearly tuna, perhaps, or a distracted juvenile whale. Still, their presence says something. These seas aren't empty. Even in the void, the middle of nowhere is teeming, and the megashark must navigate it all without exhausting herself. You watch as she changes depth, dipping beneath a thermal layer. The temperature difference is sharp enough that your non-existent lungs feel it. Down here, the water's darker. The light filters like moonlight through fog. She pauses near a rocky formationan underwater seamount bursting with life. Crustaceans, filter feeders, even reef fish in colors that look made up. She circles slowly, checking for stragglers. Then she noses upward, not to feed, but to bask. Literally. Some scientists believe megasharks used shallower waters along their routes as recharging stations places to absorb warmth, rest, and regain speed. Think of it as a prehistoric pit stop, but with more blood and less espresso. You hover beside her, suspended in the thermal layers. Above, the whales continue their steady passage. Behind, the mackerel sharks vanish in a trail of bubbles. Ahead, still more ocean. Still more mystery. But there's a rhythm to this part of the story. No hunting, no fighting, just movement, purpose. The long-haul life of a monster with somewhere to be. And it makes you wonder, what was she heading toward? A breeding ground? A feeding frenzy? Some instinctual destination carved into her DNA like a celestial map? Historians still argue about that one too, and they probably always will. You begin to appreciate the stillness, the hypnotic flick of that tail, the way the ocean hugs her like it remembers how she shaped it, like it knows that, for a time, it belonged to her. A sudden splash breaks the reverie, just a breach. One of the whales. Nothing sinister, but you flinch anyway. It's hard not to when you've spent so long waiting for the next jump scare moment in a story full of teeth. But this chapter is different. This is the middle of the migration. And in it, you find a kind of peace. A reminder that even monsters have routines. That even megasharks need cruise control. You drift upward, letting the water lighten around you. The megashark fades into a ribbon of motion ahead, still traveling, still carrying whatever ancient coordinates guide her. And you settle in the gentle pull of the current, swaying like kelp, listening to the heartbeat of the Miocene sea. The water presses warm and heavy around you as you follow her closer to shore, again closer than she's been in a while. The wide migration is over, and now you sense a shift. Not just in direction, but in energy. The megashark's movements become more precise, more pointed. There's purpose in the slow sway of her body, as if something inside her ancient engine has clicked into gear. You notice the terrain changing too. The seafloor rises gently, lifting you toward a coastline that no longer exists. In this epoch, the continents wear different shapes. Landmasses sprawl and shrink with shifting tides as tectonic plates flirt with each other beneath the waves. And in this strange time somewhere in the late Miocene or early Pliocene, familiar signal pulses through the water. You can't hear it, not in the way ears hear, but you feel it. A low-frequency thrumdull, rhythmic, inevitable, not music, not exactly. More like a beacon. You realize this is a breeding ground. And she's not alone. As you crest a shallow reef, the water suddenly pulses with motion. Other megasharks? Not many, just a few. Enough to make the seafloor tremble ever so slightly. They don't form a school. These aren't dolphins or sardines. These are solitary monsters converging like planetary orbits close, but never quite touching. Some circle slowly, others remain suspended in the water column, massive fins slicing through the sunlight like forgotten sails. It's awe-inspiring and a little tense. No fights yet, but you can feel that everyone's watching everyone. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Scientists believe many ancient marine species, including megalodons, returned to specific coastal zones to breed and give birthplaces with warmer, calmer waters, lower predator density, and higher survival odds for newborns. Fossil beds rich in megalodon teeth, especially juveniles, often cluster in these kinds of areas. And guess what? Juveniles show up around here too. You drift through a shallow cove and nearly miss the first one. It's only about 10 feet long. Only, as if that's small. but next to its titanic mother, it's a toothy guppy. This baby isn't helpless, not at all. Even at this size, it's a threat to most marine life. But here, it's still learning pacing itself, mimicking the elders, practicing the smooth, sinuous glide that one day might let it ambush a dolphin in a single burst. You watch as a juvenile bumps into a passing ray, more curious than aggressive. The ray zips off in a panic, flapping like a flattened balloon. The young Megashark circles once and then follows, half-heartedly, still figuring things out. Here's a quirky tidbit for your inner trivia gremlin. Some fossilized shark nurseries were found alongside evidence of extinct sea cow screechers that may have served as early training wheels prey. Think of them as big, slow targets for young predators to practice on, easy meals with just enough challenge to build confidence without crushing failure. But the mood here isn't just maternal. Number. There's tension beneath the calm. Because where you have breeding, you have competition. And when your participants weigh 20 to 50 tons, that competition gets intense. Your Megashark makes a slow arc around the bay. She's watching another large female, slightly smaller but twitchier. Their paths intersect just barely, no contact. But in that brief overlap, the smaller one veers off, sending a ripple of submission through the current. There's no brawl today, just dominance displayed with proximity and posture. Historians still argue whether Megasharks engaged in combats over mates or territory. Unlike many modern sharks, they may have relied more on display than direct violence, though tell that to the fossil with a snapped vertebra and a megatooth lodged in its skull. Accidents happen, or maybe they don't. You drift past a cluster of younger males hovering at the edge of the zone. They're not ready, not for her, not for any of this. You sense frustration in their restlessness, their circling. One darts too close to a larger adult and is met with a wide-mouthed display that screams, "Not today, buddy." But, despite the threat level, it's all oddly ritualistic. There's rhythm to it, as if every shark knows the choreography, even if it was never taught. Circle, approach, display, retreat. And through it all, the juveniles continue to learn by watching, by trying, by surviving. You glide along the perimeter, past rock outcrops carved by waves older than cities, and see the dark line of a sea cave yawning open. A young shark disappears into its shadow, only to emerge seconds later at a speed that screams mistake. Behind it, nothing, just darkness. But you get the feeling the cave isn't empty. You don't investigate. You're brave, but not that brave. Back in the open, you spot your Megashark again near the surface now, silhouetted against the sky, smeared with purple and copper. Her dorsal fin slices the water like a blade forged by Poseidon himself. She's not feeding. She's not fleeing. She's waiting. For what? A partner? A signal? An instinct to say, now, whatever the trigger, it hasn't come yet. So, for now, the bay holds its breath. The sharks hover, the juveniles play. The tension hums low and soft, like a warning light on a dashboard you don't quite understand. And you? You hang there, suspended between generations, watching the ancient cycle turn one more time. Not with fireworks, but with patience, with presence, with predators learning how to make more predators. The stillness doesn't last. One morning, if you can call it that, with the light diffused through drifting sediment and ancient plankton, Megashark moves again. Not adrift this time, not a lazy loop around the breeding ground, but a direct course, fast and purposeful. You can feel it in the water tension before her tail even commits to the first powerful beat. She's hungry. You follow close, weaving through a school of fish that scatters like glitter thrown in panic. Up ahead, the open sea darkens slightly, not from nightfall, but from shadows cast by prey, whales. A pod of baleen behemoths, traveling slowly, elegantly, utterly unaware that death is skimming toward them like a torpedo. It's time for a predatory burst. Modern great whites are ambush predators. They attack from below, often breaching the surface entirely with their unfortunate snacks still in their mouths. But your megashark? She's evolved beyond stealth as a requirement. She's got mass. Momentum is her invisibility cloak. She drops beneath the pod, then rises slowly, tail twitching for control. You hang beside her, riding the lift. Your chest tightens though. Yes, you're technically incorporeal, and breathing isn't a thing. Still, the suspense is so thick you could butter toast with it. Mainstream historical fact here. Based on wear patterns on fossilized megatooth teeth, scientists know they fed on whales. They cracked ribs, crunched vertebrae, and even bit off flippers. In one fossil, the bite radius was so wide it matched no other predator on Earth, ever. Suddenly, she strikes. It happens in seconds, but also in layers. First, the tail powers downward, sending the body up at a steep angle. Then the mouth opens not just wide, but unhinged. A weaponized void surrounded by nearly 300 serrated teeth, and then contact. The target whale doesn't even cry out. It's not that kind of story. There's just a shudder through the pod, a bloom of red, and one massive creature failing to be whole anymore. Your megashark circles back, slow and satisfied. She's earned this. But before you can even process the violence, the sea erupts. Because scavengers have been watching. They always are. From the deep, they come. Smaller, sharksome prehistoric, some familiar like makos and early hammerheads. Not threats, but annoyances. They dart toward the carcass, snapping at chunks of blubber. A few juvenile megalodons arrive too, drawn by the scent. One gets too close to your girl's flank, and without warning, she spins and bumps it hard with her snout. Message received. No sharing. Quirky tidbit for your nightlight-loving brain. Some paleontologists suggest megalodons may have hoarded kills, dragging massive carcasses to secluded areas to eat in peace. Imagine a 50-ton shark playing keep away with a literal whale. Territorial buffet behavior, folks. Prehistoric drama. Still, the feeding frenzy is a thing to behold. You float back, letting the chaos swirl below you. It's oddly organized an underwater version of road rage. Everyone honks, no one uses turn signals, and the biggest vehicle always wins. Historians still argue whether this kind of apex activity made the oceans healthier or destabilized them. Did the megashark help cull the weak and control whale populations? Or did it suppress diversity, ruling too hard and too long for others to thrive? No consensus, just layers of gnawed bones waiting for another debate. Eventually, the frenzy dies down. The pod has fled. The hangers-on drift away, bloated and satisfied. And the megashark? She's moving again, slower now, her hunger quieted. Her jaw still works lazily, working the last tough pieces. You float alongside her, staring into those black, bottomless eyes that somehow never blink. Then you see something strange. Up ahead, near the seabed, lies a whale carcass. Old, picked clean, but curiously placed wedged in a shallow ravine like it was stored there. Could it be hers? A future meal, cached like some gigantic sea pantry item? Or did another predator drag it here? You tilt your head, so does she. And then, in the gloom behind the bones movement, another megashark. Older, larger, scarred. Its presence is like a dropped anchor in your chest. This isn't a casual encounter. This is tension. They don't move. Not right away. They hold distance, study each other. One fin twitch could turn this into a showdown. But nothing happens. Instead, the elder slowly turns, retreating into deeper water like a queen, uninterested in challengers today. And just like that, the pressure lifts. Your megashark resumes her path. There's always a bigger fish, or at least an older one. As she moves away from the bloodied battlefield, you feel the waters quiet again. No more frenzied competition, no more scavengers, just the slow heartbeat of a satisfied killer moving through her element. You follow her into the pale blue shimmer of dusk. The water is calm now, almost sleepy, like the ocean is sighing after a long day of chaos. You drift along beside her, and for once, there's no tension, just silence. No hunting, no breeding, just existence. And it occurs to you that even monsters must rest. Even megalodons must have their moments of stillness between storms. She slows as she approaches a trench, an ancient scar in the seafloor that stretches into shadow. Not a place to hide, just a quiet one. She hovers above it, body still, eyes half-lidded, letting the water cradle her. You float beside her. For a heartbeat, nothing else matters. No chases, no splashes, no teeth, just a monster dreaming whalebone dreams. You wake if. Wake is the right word for what you do here to a change. Not in her, but in the sea. It's subtle at first, a new scent in the current, a shiver through the plankton. Then, a temperature shift. Just a few degrees, but unmistakable. The waters are cooling. Your megashark feels it too. She stirs, pivots, sniffs at the sea the way a wolf might sniff wind through trees. You drift with her, past coral fields that seem duller now. Past reef fish whose schools are tighter, more cautious. The warmth that once wrapped the ocean like a silk robe is fraying at the edges. She doesn't linger. She's moving again east, maybe north. Hard to say with no continents to anchor your compass. But the movement isn't routine. It's reactive. You can feel her instincts taking over, rewriting priorities in real time. Here's your mainstream historical fact for the night. Around 3.6 to 2.6 million years ago, the planet entered a cooling phase. Glaciers expanded, sea levels dropped, and warm coastal habitats began to shrink. It was the beginning of the end for many marine giants, including your friend. She doesn't know extinction is on the horizon, not consciously, but something in her bones tells her that familiar waters are becoming strangers, and she's trying to stay ahead of it. The migration is lonelier now. The breeding grounds? Abandoned. The juveniles? Dispersed. Only a few others appear in the periphery now and then, fleeting shadows in the distance, none coming close. It's not just you watching her anymore, she's watching you back now. Not with suspicion, just awareness, a kind of recognition. A lonely apex predator who's starting to notice the silence more than the splash. You pass over once rich feeding zones now eerily barren. Whale pods have changed course. Fish schools are more elusive. The buffet is thinning, and your megashark is hungrier longer. She used to strike like a god. Now she prowls like a thief, conserving energy, picking smaller targets, chasing slower prey. Still fearsome, but no longer invincible. And then, one day, the unthinkable. She misses. You witness it in excruciating slowness. A lunge toward a medium-sized cetacean maybe, a dolphin relative. The angle's wrong, the timing's late. The tail flicks just fast enough. The prey escapes with a gash, and your megashark is left turning in an awkward spiral, her mouth closing on nothing but churned water. She doesn't roar. She doesn't flail. She just glides away. But do you see the difference in her posture? That moment haunts her, not because of pride sharks don't have that, but because failure costs energy, and energy is no longer cheap. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some scientists speculate that megalodons may have suffered from metabolic limitations. Too big, too warm, blooded, too specialized. As oceans cooled and prey migrated or evolved, megalodons couldn't adapt fast enough. The perfect killing machine had no plan B. The deeper you travel with her, the more the water tells the same story. Shelves once teeming with life, now yawning and empty. Coral fields bleached before the term even existed. The very geography is changing. With sea levels dropping, coastal nurseries vanish. Temperature gradients warp migratory routes. Predators like her are losing their map. Historians still argue whether this cooling period was the sole reason for her extinction. Some blame increased competition with fast-evolving orcas. Others point to a cascading collapse of oceanic food chains. There's even a fringe theory involving cosmic radiation altering plankton blooms. Take your pick, none of them comfort her. One morning, or maybe it's twilight, you spot a pod of whales again. Smaller, faster. Possibly ancestors of modern sperm whales. One has massive teethy eyes, teeth in both jaws, a predator whale. It doesn't flee. It challenges. For a split second, the megashark hesitates. It's not fear, it's calculation. She's not used to prey fighting back like this. She engages, but the fight is a mess of bubbles and scars. She lands a blow, but takes one too. A gouge near her eye, a missing tooth. You're used to seeing her glide away triumphant. This time, she limps. And for the first time, you realize she's aging. Not just tired, worn. Her turns are slower. Her wounds take longer to close. Her mass isn't the same. She still owns the ocean, but it's a lease, not a deed. The cooling deepens. You drift through waters that feel deserted. Not just empty, deserted, like even the microbes packed up and left. Once, a school of sardine-like fish dart past, and she doesn't even flinch. Not worth the burn, not anymore. She spends more time hovering now, less patrolling. Her movements stretch out like sleepwalks long, slow drifts through memories encoded in current. You begin to feel like a ghost following a ghost. You pass over a trench you vaguely recognize, deeper than the last one, quieter, too. A final refuge? Or a grave? She circles the rim once, twice, then sinks not fast, not dramatic. Just lets herself be carried down into the dark. You want to follow, you try. But something holds you back. Maybe it's the pressure. Maybe it's the knowledge that you're not meant to see the very end. Not yet. Maybe it's mercy. You hover above the trench as her shape fades into blackness, a flicker of shadow and a deeper shadow. Then nothing. No splash. No bubbles, just the slow swirl of time, wrapping her in currents she ruled and now releases. You wait. Above the trench, suspended like a dream caught in amber, you float in stillness. The ocean no longer churns, it hums. And the hum is low, almost funereal, a kind of wordless chant carried through the deep by ancient currents and the hush of a world forgetting its queen. You're alone. And that's when it hits you. This part of the sea feels wrong. Not dangerous, not cursed, just vacant. Like a city after the lights go out. The pressure feels heavier, even though the depth hasn't changed. The water's thicker somehow, like it's saturated with time. It's a strange kind of grief, really not sharp, but lingering. Like salt on skin after tears dry. You turn slowly in the dark. The trench below swallows all light, and your Megashark, your terrifying, magnificent companion, hasn't returned. Is she dead? Resting? Wandering? You'll never know. And so, you move on. Drifting now with no guide, no direction, just existing, watching. You pass through miles of sea empty of giants. The creatures you see are smaller, faster, more agile. Tuna, squid. Some rough-skinned ancestor of the barracuda zipping by like a mussel with teeth. Here's your mainstream historical fact to anchor this part of your melancholy float. As the Pliocene epoch gave way to the Pleistocene, Megalodon populations had already plummeted. Most experts agree the species went extinct around 3.6 million years ago, give or take a few 100,000. That sounds like a rounding error, but in extinction terms, it's the blink of an eye. One moment, they're everywhere. Next, gone. You dip into shallower waters, and things look familiar but scaled down. Like someone hit the shrink button on the entire food chain. A school of rays glides beneath you, ghostly, fluid, but bite-sized. A dolphin-like creature arches above, chirping softly. It's peaceful here, but the absence is deafening. Then, a shadow moves across the sunlit surface. You instinctively flinch, expecting the gape-jawed presence of your Megashark, but no, it's a whale. A real modern-type whale. Huge, yes, but not massive like before. And swimming near it, almost protectively, an orca. And now, the shift is clear. Your quirky tidbit tonight? Paleontologists believe that the rise of orcas may have directly challenged megalodons near the end. Orcas are highly intelligent, social, and adaptable, everything megalodons were not. And there's fossil evidence of orca bite marks on whale remains from just after the megalodon vanished. Opportunists or successors. You watch the orca swim rings around the whale, almost showing off. It's fast, it's focused, and surprise, it's working in tandem with others. You see them now, circling like a choreographed hunting ballet. No solo ambushes, no brute force takedowns, just strategy. It's almost smug. You can't help but imagine your old Megashark plowing through this little aquatic committee like a wrecking ball at a ribbon cutting. But she's gone. And these new predators? They've got the oceans now. Historians still argue whether the orcas merely replaced a dying species or helped push it over the edge. Did they outcompete the megalodon, or simply fill a void left behind? The debate swims on. Like so many slow-churned academic podcasts, no one's settled on a winner, but you're watching the answer play out in real time. A kill. The orcas corner a calf, nothing brutal, just surgical, precise. You flinch again and realize it's not just the end of one predator, it's the end of an entire way of being. Power has been replaced by planning. Size by speed, solitude by synergy. You move on, drifting again, this time through reef zones that feel alive in a different way. Smaller predators dominate here. Barracuda, reef sharks, moray eels. The once unshakable hierarchy of the seas has diversified. No more apex throne, just layers of survival. And maybe that's the lesson. There was a time when one predator ruled it all. A time when everything swam to avoid her shadow. But ecosystems don't favor permanence. They reward resilience, adaptability, being just good enough for just long enough. Your jolted lightning-quick movement in the water below. You brace. It's a shark. But not her. This one's leaner, sleeker, white belly, gray back, a smile you know too well. Great white. Carcharodon carcharias. A descendant, maybe. Or just a distant cousin with the same taste in accessories. It doesn't see you, obviously. You're a ghost with no scent. But it swims past close enough for you to notice something eerie. Its teeth. They look familiar. And that's when the idea creeps in. Your Megashark isn't gone. Not really. She's in the genes. In the shadows cast by every dorsal fin slicing a wave. In the nightmares of seals and sea lions everywhere. In every viral video of a shark breaching like a rocket, she's folklore with a fossil record. You glance back one last time toward the trench. Still silent, still empty, but not forgotten. She may not have adapted to the new world, but the world adapted to her. She left behind blueprints for terror, for precision, for awe. And here, among these currents, her legacy swims on. You linger near the shallows now, where the sunlight reaches in long golden ribbons and the water feels thin and bright and altogether too cheerful for everything you've just witnessed. But maybe that's the point. Life moves forward, whether you're ready or not. Below you, coastal ecosystems bloom again different. Yes, but thriving. Kelp forests sway in synchronized ballets. Shoals of silvery fish dart in staccato rhythm. Sea turtles plod peacefully along the sand, dragging ancient wisdom behind them like capes. Everything seems balanced, almost suspiciously so. But you're still adjusting to this post-Megashark world, trying to convince yourself it isn't missing something essential. Like spice, like danger, like a dorsal fin that split the sea like a rift in space-time. You can't help but feel like this paradise comes at a cost, the cost of forgetting who once ruled here. Still, nature is economical. Nothing truly vanishes. Every extinct apex predator becomes fertilizer for something cleverer, quicker, smaller, or in some poetic cases, all three. Here's your mainstream historical fact. After the Megalodon's disappearance, no marine predator has come close to matching its size or dominance. Even the mighty great white, top dog of today's oceans, is comparatively petite. The age of giants gave way to the age of tactics. You can't unsee what you've seen, though. Every ripple feels like a false alarm. Every sea lion splashing at the surface gives you a jolt. And every once in a while, from the corner of your eye, you swear you catch a shadow much too large to belong to anything left in this era. But when you turn nothing, just a trick of the light. Probably. You drift with a pod of dolphins for a while. They seem chipper, too chipper. It's the marine mammal version of that one guy at work who's always perky before 8 a.m. You admire it, but you don't trust it. They play, twist, leap from the surface, chattering like underwater comedians. One bumps you well, passes through you, but it feels intentional, almost like it senses something, a residue, a presence. You're part of the ocean's memory now. That's what ghosts do. They remember when everyone else forgets. Below you, buried in the sand, is a half-visible tooth the size of your hand. You recognize it instantly. The classic triangle, serrated edges dulled by time and tide. It hasn't been claimed by the current yet, just sitting there like an exclamation mark at the end of a very loud sentence. A Megalodon tooth. Your quirky tidbit? Some beachcombers still find these along the coasts of Florida, South Carolina, and Morocco. Usually fossilized, often sold. Occasionally hoarded by obsessive collectors convinced they've found proof the beast still lives. Historians still argue whether this extinction was gradual or sudden. Was it a drawn-out vanishing, where generations dwindled in quiet desperation? Or was it a sharp collapse, like a candle snuffed out by a rogue breeze? Both theories hold water. Neither offers closure. Not for you. You follow the coastlines for what feels like weeks, or minutest time doesn't care about your perception anymore. You pass cliffs where seabirds screech like they own the place. They don't. You remember when those rocks echoed with splashes and screams that weren't nearly so feathered. Every now and then you see signs of your Megasharks' legacy, a whale carcass washed up with a suspicious gash. A boat hull with teeth marks no species today could make, and of course the legends. You float past a fishing village. The kids play a game called Run from the Shadow. They draw a fin in the sand and shriek as they pretend to flee. You hover above, smiling faintly. Or maybe that's just the current. A storm rolls in, lightning over the sea, wind slicing the water's skin into froth. You sink a little deeper. Even ghosts have the sense to take shelter. But then, in the flash of a bolt, you see something huge. Just for a moment, a shape beneath the surface. A shadow within a shadow. It doesn't resurface. It doesn't clarify. But you're harder, whatever you have, left thrums all the same. It's probably just an unusually fat whale. Probably. Or a submarine. Or a trick of depth and light? Definitely that. But still, you stay just a little longer, just in case. Because if she was still out there hiding in the dark places, sleeping in trenches, waiting for the sea to warm again, you'd want to be the first to see her breach the surface in defiance of extinction. Even now, marine scientists receive sonar hits they can't explain. Enormous moving signals, unidentifiable, dismissed or hushed, or laughed off in interviews while their eyes dart just a little too quickly to the corners of the room. You feel it too, a possibility that refuses to die. She's not gone. She's just deep. You drift a little farther. Quiet now. Not hopeful, not afraid, just wondering. Then you see it. Another trench. Not the same one as before, but similar. Blacker than space, quieter than sleep. You float above it, hesitating. What would you do if she came back? Would you warn the world? Or just watch? Because deep down, part of you knows that if she did rise again, there wouldn't be much to do about it, except marvel, and maybe scream a little, and probably run out of time. You hover there until the sea forgets to ripple, until your own presence begins to fade. Because maybe, just maybe, it's your turn to rest now too. The sea is nearly still. You drift just above the abyss, where the light can no longer reach and the pressure wraps around your body like a memory you didn't know you carried. The trench below pulls gently, as if whispering something too old and too slow to be spoken out loud. It's not a voice, not exactly, it's a suggestion, a nudge. And, like a leaf caught in a lazy current, you follow. Down. The water grows heavier, thicker, as though time itself has begun to condense. You don't breathe anymore, haven't for a while, but your chest tightens anyway. That's how you know you're deep, not in distance. In story, you're passing through the unspoken chapters now, the final act. where the Megalodons sleep, if they sleep at all. Nothing moves down here, and yet everything listens. There are scars on the trench walls, long ones, parallel gouges that could be tectonic shifts, or the last desperate scrapes of something huge trying to hold on. You trail your hand along one. It's smooth now, worn down by ages of silt and silence, but once it was jagged. Once it tore. Mainstream historical fact? Despite their dominance, megalodons were surprisingly vulnerable to ecological shifts. The cooling of the oceans, changes in prey availability, the closing of ancient seaways all combined like a perfect storm, and predators, even apex ones, are only as powerful as the ecosystem allows. This place, this deep, cold, quiet vault, may be where the last of them came to die, or to hide. There's an old sailor myth, the kind whispered over rum and oil lamps, that sometimes, at midnight, the ocean goes absolutely still, not a wave, not a gull, not a sound, and if you look down, you'll see a single eye, the size of your boat, blinking up from the abyss. Not watching you, recognizing you. You hover and feel recognized. The quirky tidbit here: some prehistoric shark teeth have been found lodged inside modern whale bones, modern, as in species that still swim today. While this is usually chalked up to scavenging, or coincidence, or misidentification, there are a few people, just a few, who believe it means something else, something hungry, something enduring. Historians still argue whether the megalodon could have survived, even in small pockets. Most dismiss it outright. The fossil record goes cold, the prey patterns changed, the temperatures dropped. All the signs point to extinction. But there are those margins, the mysteries, the sonar blips and unconfirmed sightings and half-shredded whales washing up on remote beaches with tooth marks no one can fully explain. It's laughable, mostly, until you're here, in the trench, and you feel her. It starts as a pressure, not physical, psychological, like a memory surging up through your chest, like every time you've ever been alone in the dark and felt something watching. You can't prove it, but you know, she's close. You turn slowly, and they're just barely lit by bioluminescent worms trailing across a boulderous shape, longer than a city bus, broader than a shipping container, motionless, covered in what looks like time itself. Barnacles, algae, calcified streaks. But the mouth, that's unmistakable. Even dormant, it gapes slightly, like a door that never quite shuts. You drift closer. You shouldn't, but you do. She's not breathing, not moving, but her presence is so enormous that it makes your thoughts scatter like minnows. If she is dead, it is not the kind of death you can comprehend. It's a forever sort of sleep. A maybe don't poke this sort of hush. And yet, her eye twitches. Not open, just tightens. A flinch, perhaps. Maybe a dream. Or maybe you imagined it. It doesn't matter. Because the truth is, no one knows. Not really. And perhaps that's how it should stay. Mystery has always been the ocean's best trick. You retreat, slowly, reverently, as if leaving a sacred temple. You're not scared anymore. You're not even curious. You're just quiet. You surface miles away, where the water is warm and the moonlight paints silver trails along the ripples. The world has changed. But the story hasn't ended. It just fell asleep for a while. You settle now, just beneath the surface, where the water rocks you in slow, predictable waves. The sounds are gentler here. sea foam fizzing like static, distant gulls crying into a vastness they'll never understand, the hush of tide, the yawn of open sky. You've traveled far tonight. You've seen giants rise and vanish, felt their hunger, their awe, their extinction and their memory. You've floated through empires built not of stone or steel, but of bone and bite and endless blue. You've hovered at the edge of time's deepest silence. And you made it back. Not everything does. The oceans are still full of life, of questions, of glimmers in the deep that make even the most rational minds wonder. Maybe that's the gift the Megalodons left behind, not fear, but wonder. A reminder that some stories are too big to fit in museums or textbooks. Some things are meant to be whispered, not explained. You close your eyes, drifting now, not through currents, but into sleep. Let the waves carry the edges of your mind. Let your breath soften, slow, stretch. You're safe here. The giants are gone, or resting. The sea remembers you kindly. The lights are low. The hum of the fan is steady. The world narrows gently to the space just beneath your eyelids, where dreams start to bloom like deep-sea jellyfish slow, luminous, untouchable. Sleep, little voyager. The seas are quiet now.